So if you clicked on my thumbnail, I'm going to assume you're at least remotely interested in the Steam Deck. And since I'm a relatively small channel, I'm also going to assume you've already seen the videos on whether or not this thing is worth it. You're most likely familiar with those videos like, people's time with the Steam Deck. You know the ones I'm talking about. My thoughts after 3 months, 6 months, and so on. But what about an entire year? I feel like these videos are really important because the Steam Deck is not a home console. If you get stick drift or if one of your buttons malfunctions on your controller, it's whatever. You can just go to the store, buy a new controller. Same thing with the Nintendo Switch. If your Joy-Cons are acting up, run to GameStop and buy a used one for like $30-$40 or do what I did and upgrade to the Galileo G8 Plus from GameSir and never have to worry about Joy-Cons ever again. Because let's be honest here, Joy-Cons are broken by default because they just suck. My point is, you want to know how a product like this holds up because it doesn't matter how good it is. I wouldn't touch this thing with a 10-foot pole if in a few months I had to send it in to get repaired or, God forbid, order replacement parts and try taking this thing apart, probably breaking it completely knowing me because I'm just a clumsy moron. That's why I think being able to recommend the Steam Deck after an entire year gives me a unique angle, and I have receipts to prove it. I purchased the Steam Deck on February 22, 2024, and I feel like I've had more than enough time with it to see how it holds up and do everything I could possibly do with a PC handheld in terms of tinkering. At least that's what I thought because apparently there's a new frame gen mod that lets you vastly improve your FPS on games like The Witcher 3, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Spider-Man 2. Like, I'm seeing these games running at over 60 FPS, and from what people are saying, I haven't tested it out for myself, but it seems the input lag is barely noticeable. So what the hell? I guess the Steam Deck is just a gift that keeps on giving. So, a whole year. What are my thoughts? Well, fucking fantastic, man. The Steam Deck has absolutely exceeded my expectations when it comes to everything. Form factor, performance, battery life, but most importantly for me, durability. All the buttons still feel nice and responsive. The triggers, the D-pad, the bumpers, everything. Though I will say the face buttons like that X button, for some reason it felt like the casing around it was a little too tight. So for the first month or so I'd be pressing the X button and sometimes it would stick. I ended up putting a little strip of Scotch tape in between that button and eventually after I used it for a while, I kind of broke it in like a new pair of shoes. It wasn't really a huge deal, but something I wanted to mention. What really surprised me is the thumbsticks. Now, when you use a stock controller for a while, doesn't matter if it's the Switch Pro controller or Xbox controller, whatever. After a while, using those thumbsticks, there's this thing that happens where eventually they feel like sand in between the outer ring. This is so annoying. It feels like nails on a chalkboard to me. I just can't stand it. And I'll look under there and I'll notice this kind of chalky ring build up that's causing this grainy feeling every time I rotate the sticks. Well, the Steam Deck, it doesn't have this problem. I've been playing everything from first-person shooters to hack and slash games that have QuickTime events, and there's just nothing there. They still feel brand new. They still feel smooth like the first day I got this thing. You have no idea how happy this makes me feel. And I know I'm probably just making a big deal about it because you could just deal with it as long as it's not stick drift, but it's just annoying, But yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way. I've owned this thing for a year now and it's just beautiful how well it's held up. So I've been gaming on handhelds pretty much since I've been gaming. In the late 90s, I had the OG Game Boy, that big gray brick, along with every single version of Pokemon. I had the Game Boy Color. I had the Game Boy Advance. And to me, it's just crazy seeing how far we've come with handheld gaming. Like, I remember playing Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword on my Nintendo DS, and now I'm sitting here playing Ninja Gaiden 2 Black on the Steam Deck. This is the reason why I prefer handheld consoles, because home consoles back in the day, part of the fun was seeing that new generation rolling out and having your jaw on the floor by the leap in graphics and performance. And that's just something we're not seeing anymore. We haven't seen a significant leap since the Xbox 360 and PS3. Some would even say not since the 6th generation of consoles. With handhelds though, we're seeing huge leaps still. And I can almost guarantee that the PlayStation 6 and the new Xbox whatever console, it's just gonna feel like a slight improvement. Whereas handhelds just keep on getting better and better. You know, the PSP and the Nintendo DS was a crazy jump. And then the 3DS and the PlayStation Vita was even more insane. Then we got the Nintendo Switch running impossible games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm sorry, that's just more impressive to me than the Series console and the PS5 looking the same but just more crisp. Now with the Steam Deck, I'm over here questioning like, how do we even go up from here? Because so far, I've been able to run everything I could ever want on this machine. I'm sure we've all seen Elden Ring running on the Steam Deck, and that was pretty much the selling point. Like, Elden Ring was the Steam Deck's Breath of the Wild. And yeah, you can run pretty demanding games, sometimes with a little bit of tweaking. I played Marvel Spider-Man on this thing. I was absolutely surprised by how good it looked on the OLED screen. No tweaking at all. It just played straight out of the box. I'm even seeing that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 runs like a dream on the Steam Deck, and that game just came out. But even the most demanding games on PC that the Steam Deck can't technically handle, you can run them without having to sacrifice image quality or performance. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I would still recommend a Steam Deck, because when Stalker 2 came out, it was messy. It had balancing issues, it had missing features, but the biggest issue that people had, and it's an ongoing issue that people still have with Unreal Engine 5 games, is the game just had major performance issues. On the Steam Deck though, believe it or not, I was able to play Stalker 2 on maxed out settings. Seriously, everything cranked all the way up to Epic at 60 frames per second. Running flawlessly. Granted, that was after receiving some of the more major patches, but yeah, I'm not lying. I played through the entire game like that, and it was an absolutely incredible experience. And the reason I could pull this off is because the Steam Deck OLED has a Wi-Fi 6E chip. There's this thing called GeForce Now from Nvidia, which is this streaming service. I was able to boot this game up and have a 4080 rig stream Stalker 2 straight to the Steam Deck. No problem at all. I wasn't having disconnections. There was no input lag. The latency just felt non-existent. Like, I'm almost convinced that you could competitively game with GeForce Now. It's really that good. And if you're familiar with the Switch, don't worry. All the Kingdom Hearts games and all the Resident Evil games, you can run natively on the Steam Deck. But anyways, GeForce Now, the performance, if you subscribe to the Ultimate tier, it's fantastic. But it kind of sucks because you're basically paying to play your own games. But I look at it like this. At least for the more demanding games, instead of going out and buying a ridiculously priced graphics card, you can pay for a single month and play that big AAA game on the Steam Deck. And in a way, at least in my mind, I feel like I'm saving money this way. If I want to play Black Myth Wukong or Space Marine 2, games that have abysmal performance on the Steam Deck, I just log into GeForce Now and crank them all the way up, and really, I could see this massively increasing the shelf life on the Steam Deck. And since we're talking about streaming on the Steam Deck, I've been referring to this thing as the Xbox Portal. Because not only can you run Game Pass on this thing, no Xbox required, but if you do own a console, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox, you can remote play straight to the Steam Deck using this app called XB Play in Chiaki, I think it is, but I own an Xbox, so let's talk about XB Play. You can get this app straight from the Steam store. Like, you don't have to go into desktop mode and download it from some link or nothing. I think it's like $7 or whatever, and it's amazing. You know, I used to actually sleep on remote play for a while. I never really used it before. I mean, I used Steam Link on my phone before, and it was a horrible experience. So I kind of just wrote it off. But when I seen the streaming capabilities of the Steam Deck, I decided, you know what? Let me check into this. One thing that I wanted to do is just see how powerful this thing was. So the first thing I did, and I think this is the first thing most of us did when we got the Steam Deck, is emulation. I downloaded EmuDeck and started testing a shit ton of PS2 games. But when I looked up like Xbox 360 emulation running on Xenia, it looked a little hit or miss. A lot of games just had too many frame drops, and sometimes they were just straight up broken. So I didn't even try it. But with remote play, it has honestly filled that gap for me. Xbox 360 emulation. Because I've been using XB Play to stream a bunch of Xbox 360 games. And yeah, I know it's already on the console. It's not like I can't already sit down in front of my TV and play them there, but that's the magic of handhelds. With console games, when you get into a game, you're doing that gamer lean where you lean forward. But when you're playing on a handheld, you know what I'm talking about. You're all laid back and cozied up. Me, I'm over here just sitting in my recliner. I got a blanket on me, just backlogging it up. It's amazing. I've been playing so many of my favorite Xbox 360 games. Like, I just played through the entire first Gears of War game from start to finish. And the aiming, it felt smooth as hell. I was hitting those perfect reloads and everything. I've been playing Lost Odyssey, the original Ninja Gaiden 2, Dante's Inferno, just basically everything from my backlog. And I'm about to get into some OG Xbox games too. If you're playing on the OLED, it's basically like playing remasters of every game. The thing that you can do with the Steam Deck that you just can't do with console is you just have more options. Plus, when you're streaming, you practically don't ever have to worry about the battery life because it just lasts forever. And you can even lower the TDP, which will make it last even longer. And I doubt anybody in 2025 is gaming all the way into the double digits. Like, I'm not pulling off no 15-hour days like I did when I was a kid. So I'm over here with the Steam Deck and charging this thing like every 3 days when I'm just doing remote play or Game Pass or GeForce. I will say this though, it rarely happens on GeForce now, but it does sometimes happen with XB Play, where if you're playing a newer game and there's just a bunch of particle effects on screen, you do get a little bit of bit crushing, which is this thing where you're streaming and the screen goes all pixelated. But really, if you have a decent internet connection and you're in the same room as your console with it plugged into the Ethernet, you really shouldn't have problems at all. Like, the image quality for me is really good, and I'd say I have a decent internet connection. Like, it's nothing fancy or anything, but with Xbox 360 games, like, it's pretty much flawless. Like, I can go anywhere in my house and they just look and play good for some reason. Plus, too, you can use the Steam Deck as an extra controller. So for me, I'm playing co-op games with my daughter and she's sitting in front of the TV. And like I said, I'm in my recliner, just laid back with the blanket over me. And we've been playing a lot of Shredder's Revenge together. We've also played through Untitled Goose Game. Like, seriously, this is like the Swiss Army knife of gaming. No exaggeration. But if you just want to get into PC gaming, the Steam Deck, it's just a no-brainer. There's so many sales always going on. Like, older AAA games, I'm picking up games for under $5 sometimes. Games like GTA 4, Dead Space 2, Dead Rising, a lot of games from last gen too. Like, you can find them for under $10 all the time. And like I said, with GeForce Now, it has 4K support and ray tracing. So you can put this thing on a 4K TV and it'll blow current gen consoles out of the water. I mentioned emulation just a moment ago, and don't worry, I saved the best for last because the Steam Deck is the first and last retro handheld you'll ever need. GameCube, flawless. You can run 90% of the entire GameCube library. PlayStation 2, same thing, pretty much flawless. I haven't played a single game yet that hasn't ran better than actual PlayStation 2 hardware at 2 times the resolution. You can even emulate Nintendo Wii, like get yourself a Dolphin bar, which is basically a Nintendo Wii sensor, but with a USB port for PC and a Nintendo Wiimote, and you could play all your favorite Wii games. Wii U games run fantastic too, which I think is just because of how well optimized Nintendo makes their games. They're just super easy to emulate. I can't tell you how many games I just got chilling on an SD card, over 100 at least. I know I got over 50 games for the PS2. I've been playing a lot of Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. It runs at a stable 60 FPS. I got all of the Black Box era Need for Speed games, all of the Spider-Man games, Metal Gear Solid 3, God of War 1 and 2, Shadow of the Colossus, and they all look and run amazing. And it's like playing a remaster, like I said, all your favorite games. And emulation, it's not even hard to set up. Like, I think I watched a 10-minute video, and then it took me like an additional 25 minutes to set everything up. And then my first game that I ripped off the internet, I think it was the original Need for Speed Underground. It took me like 3 minutes to download. So within half an hour, I was already emulating my childhood on this device. Now, this is what I call value proposition. I know I probably sounded like a shill throughout this entire video, but the Steam Deck, it really is that good, and it just might be the reason why I wait to pick up a Nintendo Switch 2. I'm kind of done with consumerism anyways. There's no real reason to upgrade consoles anymore. I just don't see the value anymore. That's why a lot of us are just going out and buying a PC or a PC handheld or getting a cheap retro device or just trying to complete our backlogs. There's too many games, too many options, no significant leaps anymore in graphics with the so-called next-gen consoles with 9th gen consoles, no console exclusivity. Xbox is going to PlayStation. PlayStation is probably going to Xbox. Everything's just going to PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo emulation. And since I'm pretty much platform agnostic, like I don't care about a console. I'm not married to my Nintendo Switch or my Xbox. If the value proposition is there, I'm just gonna go where the games are. And that just happens to be PC. Talk to me in the comments section. All right, bye.